So today we're lucky to have Kamala Venner and Amy Campbell join us. These two women are forces of nature, and they are helping us with our summer program and our end of summer program through our NARCH, the Northwest NARCH, based out of the Northwest Portland Area Indian Health Board. And when we were looking for people to lead an intensive end of summer class, everybody that I knew in the country pointed to these two academicians. So it seemed like the planets all lined up and, the vectors all pointed in the same two directions. And hence we're here. So I'm delighted to have established this new partnership and friendship, and hope that it goes on for many, many years. I know that when I worked with Hawaiian people and Hawaiian researchers for many years, they always said that they would welcome me into the fold so long as I made a commitment for life. So I wasn't just in it for the time when the grant was going on. And I agreed, and that is indeed still happening. And I would like to make the same commitment to Kamala and to Amy that we'd love to be involved with you and your academic selves for life. And I hope that we can continue to bring you into the Northwest Portland Area Indian Health Board activities for a really long time.
Thank you.
So most of the viewing public would like to know more about the two of you as actual humans. So if you would be kind enough to describe your path in life and in academics, that'd be great. And so I know the two of you are extremely polite and you're kind of going, you go first, you go first. So Kamala, you go.
Okay, thank you so much, Kamam. And it's such a privilege to be invited to co-lead this Indigenous Scholars group under your directorship and with your team. It's the first time that Amy and I have partnered in this way, and we have just enjoyed our scholars so much. So we welcome this new relationship and this new partnership and are grateful for it. So my name is Kamala Venner, and I'm a clinical psychologist by training, born and raised in Anchorage, Alaska, so urban Indian here. From the Chitna Village tribe on my mom's side, from the Otna Athabascan people, and from the Caribou or Ujishu tribe, or clan, sorry. And then mixed European heritage on my dad's side, who was born in Pennsylvania. And now I'm in another urban setting in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and I'm an associate professor of psychology at the University of New Mexico. And I have been here in New Mexico now for I think it's 31 years. So lived here much longer than I lived in Alaska, actually, and have just centered my whole career on working with and partnering with tribes that are interested in evidence-based treatments for substance use disorders, and culturally adapting, tailoring, or more recently, culturally centering in our implementation work, and have been so lucky to partner with Amy over the years. And gosh, it's over a decade now, but it just doesn't seem like that much, and just love working with Amy. And also I'm committed to working with Amy for life. With that, I'll turn it on over to Amy.
What colleges or graduate programs did you attend?
Oh, okay. So I'm a first generation to college, and my parents were both very pro education. And I think my dad would always say, nobody can take your education from you. And so I applied for colleges and wasn't too sure what I was doing. And my college counselor, I said, I don't want to go to University of Washington. That's way too big. But I definitely wanted to leave Alaska and pursue higher education outside of Alaska, which probably wasn't the financially smart thing, my dad said, but I still jumped ship. And so ended up applying to a liberal arts school called Whitman College in Walla Walla, Washington. And one other one, I think maybe UC Santa Barbara and maybe Pomona colleges, something like that. And Whitman was more proactive and flew me down to check them out. And I just love the campus, and so decided to go there and majored in psychology there. And then took some years off and got some more practical experience working in a children's psychiatric hospital, and then realizing I needed more research experience to get into graduate school. And so then I ended up coming to University of New Mexico to get my degree in clinical psychology, my master's and PhD.
And that was under Dr. Miller?
That's right.
Yeah. Yeah, I've known him 50 years.
Whoa, okay, dang. That beats me.
Well, great. This is a very interesting story. Let's go to Amy.
Great. Well, I feel very at home between these two furs, Tom, because I am originally from Washington State. So this is good. And I would just, echo initially, Kamala's points around just how much fun and what an honor it's been to get to work with the Indigenous scholars for this addiction research course that we're teaching. So yeah, if you'll have me, I'm all in. So appreciate that and the opportunity. So yeah, so I'm currently located in New York City. I live in Queens. I'm on faculty at Columbia University in the Department of Psychiatry, but I'm a social worker by background and training. And as I mentioned, I'm originally from Washington State, so grew up all over the place in Washington State. We moved around quite a bit when I was younger. So we lived in Puyallup and Ellensburg and Cle Elum and Yakima and Seattle, all over the place. My dad was a high school teacher and football coach, and so we kind of moved from school to school. My family overall is of mixed European heritage, both immigrants and settlers. My grandmother was from Australia. My grandfather was from Switzerland. And let's see, what else? I guess school-wise, like Kamala, it feels like it's very different nowadays, but I applied to 2 colleges out of high school. One was my dream school, which was Stanford, that didn't accept me. And then the other was the University of Washington, a great state school. So I went to the University of Washington as an undergrad. Thought for sure I was going to be a cardiologist until I got into pre-med chem. And then that derailed that. My first year in college, and I landed, in the social sciences and ended up majoring in sociology because the study of groups and the way people work really spoke to me. But the only downside of that was I was hard to figure out, well, how do you help people with like the sociological lens directly? And so that kind of led me to social work. And so after college, again, like Kamala, I worked for a while at the School of Social Work at the University of Washington. And then eventually I got married and we moved to New York for my partner's graduate education. And we've been there ever since 2000. So did research right out of undergrad and then went and did my MSW at Columbia, and a few years after that, my doctoral work at Columbia in the School of Social Work as well. So I had a little bit of a circuitous past, but once I got involved in research after undergrad, it was like love at first sight. So I've kind of been in that realm ever since. And that was
How did the two of you meet and join forces? How did that occur?
I feel like it's been forever. And yet I think it was around 2009, 2010, if I recall correctly. So about 15 years now. So I was working on a project in the NIDA Clinical Trials Network. It was a study looking at a computer-assisted behavioral treatment in 10 sites across the country. And there was a push to understand if this kind of technology-based intervention would be appropriate and acceptable among Indigenous communities. And so we got to be involved in an ancillary study with 2 urban treatment programs in Rapid City and in Portland. And I co-led that, and Kamala was a co-investigator on that. I think we met through our colleague Tracy Rickman, who I think knew Kamala first. And so Kamala was involved in that study. We partnered on that. And then we've, I think, pretty much partnered continuously from that point on in various projects. Does that sound right, Kamala?
I know, it's like, thanks for jogging my memory. And we were lucky to meet through Tracy. And that was because I think because I had provided a motivational interviewing training through the Addiction Technology Transfer Center that she was directing at the time.
That's right.
And so I think that's how that started.
Yeah.
Great. Well, what projects have the two of you shared that you've enjoyed the most?
Say probably our current research study that we're working on now, that we've been working on for the last 5 years with 4 different communities across the country and a national advisory board. I mean, there's so much, there's so many different things that we've been able to do on that project.
I think this has been the most fun because we've actually been partners the whole way. So, equal co-leads and we have so many meetings together. And I was just saying in one of our meetings that we just got off that with the help of our 4 sites in 4 different states that are all involved in tribally led programs that are working to culturally center the delivery of medication treatment for opioid use disorder. And then we had a large national collaborative board. And at the beginning, we divided that up into a traditional practices group that I led, an implementation work group that Amy led, a measurement group that Margaret Passion-Wolf led. And then we also had one for publication that I think Kate was most involved with the first publication. So we helped each other through the pandemic, and I learned a lot about myself even, and grew a lot in my own cultural heritage through the generosity and graciousness of our partners, and have learned a lot about implementation science and electronic medical records. So it's just been, we're there for each other through the highs and the, challenges. And so it's just been really wonderful opportunity.
So where do you think your partnership and your research might lead you in the next decade?
Whatever Kamala wants to do, I'm in. At this point, I think the thing that I find most exciting is partnering with other investigators, junior investigators, trainees. I'm just like really excited by the ideas and like the vision that the next generation has around what's possible in terms of research and what it looks like, and the knowledge that they bring and the different lens that they bring. So I'm kind of excited to really support that work. So take the stuff that I've learned over the last few decades in this field, but really support the ideas and the vision of folks coming up. And Kamala and I have had the opportunity of working with some really amazing, younger investigators, emerging investigators, and it's just like, wow, like what great ideas that folks have. And so like I'm all for just putting my efforts behind those folks at this point, because I think that's where my excitement is. But Kamala, whatever you want to do, I'm in.
I know. I just gave a talk for the 25th anniversary for the NIDA Clinical Trials Network, and quickly summarized the work that they have funded with American Indian Alaska Native tribes, and realized I was involved in almost all of those studies. And so I do think about like what could be a next step around implementation science. And I feel pulled, like Amy as well, to help build the next generation of researchers. And so that's been a wonderful opportunity within Northwest NARCH. And we've talked about, Amy and I, doing, I guess, maybe separate K grants, or I don't know. I don't know if you can really do those together, but that would be more fun to do it together. And, you know, really I've been thinking about, again, just focusing on Indigenous researchers at different levels, probably starting with graduate school and postdocs in early career. And then they give you some money to do some of your own research. And so I'm getting ready to go on sabbatical next year, and I want to travel to New Zealand. So I've been looking for connections there to talk with them about what do they do to culturally tailor their treatment with the Maori populations, and you know, visit some of their treatment centers and see if we can get some collaboration that way. And so there might be something that opens up there. And I guess I'm interested in really thinking about how do we guide in a little bit more of a rigorous fashion, I think, conversations with clients about their cultural identity and where they're at in their process, and it all being okay to be more acculturated, but interested in going back to your roots, or being raised more traditionally, and strengthening that. So I guess, yeah, we're not too sure yet.
Well, that's a good answer and an honest one. So, you know, your listening audience is a lot of up and coming young tribal people who are interested in biomedical and behavioral research. So now's your chance to offer them, all of them, including most of the people you have not met, some career advice. What has worked well for you, and what would you avoid? And, you know, what were the pitfalls, and where were the bear traps? And what general or specific advice might you have for your viewing audience?
I think one of the biggest pieces of advice I have is find somebody that has already been successful at what you want to do, whether that's applying to a graduate school program, or getting your master's thesis proposed, or your comps, or your first papers published, or your first grant submitted. Find people that have been successful already, who are willing to share their materials with you, encourage you. And so that kind of transfers into that, sometimes peer mentorship, and also finding other mentorship from folks that you know, that you enjoy, that you trust, and that they are really looking out for you, and advocating for you, and finding opportunities for you. Yeah, so I just can think of so many ways that, and not just one mentor, right? Like reaching out to other folks. And I know it goes both ways, because I think some of the new work in decolonizing mentorship models is not just waiting for the mentee to come out, you know, reach out to you, but also reaching out to the mentees to see how they're doing and what they might need. So it's kind of both ways, finding that ability to advocate for yourself, but also finding people that will also reach out to you and support you. So I think those are probably two of my most common and strongest recommendations.
Great. Amy?
Yeah, I mean, that was my response as well. That's the mentorship piece, I think, is just so important. And you know, it kind of avoiding those mentorship relationships where it's, you know, it's really what the mentor wants, and not what the mentee or the more junior person wants. So yes, I think, yeah, networking and mentorship, I think, have got to be tops. And then the other thing I would say is to follow your heart and your gut in terms of the work that you do. I think sometimes we're kind of caught in, you know, what's going to get funded, what's the next thing that everybody's talking about. But I always come back to whenever I've kind of really followed something that was meaningful to me, that I felt was important, it's always tended to work out the best. And sometimes it can be a little bit scary. But that's what I would say. I'd say, research is hard. And so you need to wrap yourself up in something that is meaningful and that you're passionate about, and are surrounded by people that care about you, and you're all part of the same team. So that's what drives me, and I think makes all of this work meaningful and important. So those would be the two things I would
Great,
suggest.
two great answers. Kamala, I think you were about to say something.
Yes, I was, I just love everything that Amy said. And I think I was trying to think of how to word this, that when she was saying that research is hard, and then there's a personal side to the mentorship, I think everybody comes to points of wondering, like, is this the right path for me? And I mean, for me, I definitely was wondering, like, oh, do I belong as a professor in this department? Like, I really didn't, I hadn't thought of that for myself. It's just kind of the opportunities rose up. And so I think finding people that you feel safe to kind of share those doubts when they come up, and or getting maybe harsh reviews on a paper or a grant or things like that, finding people that you can really be honest with and talk to, and who encourage you. And so some will use motivational interviewing type techniques and sort of check in with you, and others will be like, nope, you're needed in this field, and there will be other people that need you as a mentor, and so you stick in this field. And so you kind of need a lot of different supports, but I think it's normal probably in any field to kind of have doubts sometimes. Is this still the right direction? And so finding people that can support you as you figure that out for yourself.
Well, the last question that I'll ask is pure grazia. She came up with the question, so, and it's a fun question. If you can orient this toward your careers, that'd be great, but it doesn't have to be. If you could have dinner with anyone, who would that be and why?
This morning, what came to mind for me was Maya Angelou. And I just think she's also an amazing person that really forged this incredible life, and had so much strength to overcome so many challenges in her life, and also took so much joy in community. I read one of her books. I can't remember what the title is now. It's something about like the welcome table or something like that, where she got together with all these wonderful, usually I think writers, and they would eat incredible food. And so I'm thinking she would make an incredible meal. So that would be yummy. And then just share her wisdom, that she would she get the Medal of Honor from Obama during his presidency, and we're in some pretty challenging times, and I feel like she would have a voice of encouragement, and also pretty tough, like, keep going and keep fighting the good fight. So I think I would really enjoy a meal with Maya Angelou.
Well, she was remarkable. Great answer. Amy?
I'll say my grandmother, my maternal grandmother. Yeah, just for all the reasons you might expect, but she's been gone for over a decade now, and just the thought of getting to choose anybody, that's what immediately popped into my head. So I thought, well, that's the answer I'll give then, because wouldn't that be lovely?
Yes,
Just
it
have
would.
another
So
evening.
that's great. Well, I'm delighted that the two of you joined us. So thank you both, and thank you, Grazia.
Thank
Thank you so
you.
much, Tom. It's been a
Thanks.
pleasure. We're not going to sing,
Kamala,
Tom.
if
If that's what
Kamala
you
were
have in mind,
sitting,
we're not singing.
Kamala were sitting across the Central Avenue in the in this psychology department and decided to head over to the Frontier for a late breakfast, what would you order?
Always huevos rancheros with green chili stew.
I'd go for 2 eggs over easy with Western hash browns, a cinnamon roll, and coffee and some fresh squeezed orange juice. I can warm you up a little bit. I threw this question back at Grazia, and she said that she'd have dinner with anybody, anywhere in Italy, so long as they served Italian food. Now, if they ask me, I'll say, well, in the next decade, I'm looking for a really comfy room in a nursing home.
I don't think so, Tom.